So number 14, first part, find the x-intercepts of the graph. So that we just have to set y equal to 0. That's where we have x-intercept. So 0 equals cosine of x minus cosine squared of x. So you can factor out a cosine. So either cosine of x equals 0 or cosine of x equals 1. So if cosine is 0, remember we're working on an interval here from negative pi to pi. So if cosine is 0, that means the x value is 0. That would be here and here. But since we're talking about between negative pi and pi, that would be negative pi over 2 and pi over 2. And if cosine is 1, cosine again is the x value is 1, that would be right here at 0. Alright, for part B, finding x and y coordinates, all the relative maximum and minimums, we have to find the derivative and the critical values to find out where the relative max and mins are. So, first derivative f of x. Derivative of cosine is negative sine minus derivative of cosine squared. We have to bring the 2 out in front, so 2 times cosine of x. And then times the derivative of cosine is negative sine. So I'm just going to go ahead and put positive sign there and make this a positive. Negative times negative is positive. So we need to know when this is 0. We can factor out a negative sign of x here. And we get 1 minus 2 times cosine of x. So either the sine of x equals 0 or cosine of x equals 1/2. So if x is equal to 0, or sine of x is equal to 0, y value is 0, that would be here and here, but it has to be between negative pi and pi. So actually, the way we'd write this is negative pi, 0, and pi. Alright, but since these are endpoints, those are not going to be relative mins or maxes, right? So for relative mins and maxes, we used in between. For this one, cosine is 1/2, so our x value is 1/2. These 2 points right here, so that would be pi over 3 and negative pi over 3. So we can figure these out, whether they're minimums or maximums, on a number line for the first derivative. So we've got negative pi over 3, 0, and pi over 3. So we need to plug in some values to figure out where things are positive and negative. Okay, so if we put in a value less than negative pi over 3, like negative pi over 2, sine of negative pi over 2 would be negative 1 times negative. That makes this positive. And then 2 times cosine of negative pi over 2, well, cosine of negative pi over 2 is 0, so this would just be positive 1. So these are positive. Put in a number between 0 and negative pi over 3, like pi over 6, negative pi over 6. And we've got sine of negative pi over 6 would be a negative number, but times the negative would make that positive. And then 2 times cosine of negative pi over 6, that is cosine of negative pi over 6 is, square root of 3 over 2. So 2 times square root of 3 over 2 is square root of 3. 1 minus square root of 3 is going to be a negative number. Put in pi over 6. Sine of pi over 6 is positive. And with the negative out in front makes it negative. 1 minus 2 times cosine, again, is going to be positive root 3 over 2. This is going to end up being a negative number, which makes the interval positive. And then last but not least, put in a number bigger than pi over 3, like pi over 2. Sine of pi over 2 is 1 times the negative, makes it a negative 1. And then 1 minus 2 times cosine of pi over 2. Cosine of pi over 2 is 0. So this is going to be positive, making that negative. So that means we have a maximum at pi over 3 and a maximum at, I'm sorry, negative pi over 3 and positive pi over 3, and a minimum at x equals 0. So to find the x and y coordinates, we've got the x coordinates, we just have to plug these into the original function to find out what y is. Alright, so if you put negative pi over 3 into the original function, cosine of x minus cosine squared, you should get 1/4. So you get negative pi over 3, 1/4. Put 0 into the original function, you get 0 out. And put positive pi over 3 into the original function, you should get 1/4 out of also. So those are our minimums and maximums. Part C says find the intervals, which the graph of f is increasing. So it's increasing when the derivative is positive. So it's increasing on the intervals from, we start with negative pi to negative pi over 3, and from 0 to pi over 3. For part D, the graph of the function from negative pi to pi. We know these 3 points right here, the minimums and maximums. So negative pi over 3, positive 1/4. Right there. Positive pi over 3, 1/4. Right there. 0, 0. And then the only other thing we want to look at kind of is where it is when there's negative pi and pi. So if we put those into the original function, cosine of negative pi is negative 1 minus cosine squared, so negative 1 squared is 1. So negative 1 minus 1, we have a point at negative 2. Same thing if we put in pi, they're coterminal, so it's going to end up in the same spot. So our graph is increasing until we get to pi over 3, then decreasing, increasing, and decreasing.